What's up, everybody? This is Alex Christopher from the Duran, and I have with me Peter Lavelle, host of RT's Crosstalk. And today we're going to talk about Trump, the great disruptor. Okay, Peter, it's been a change of fortunes for sure for Trump this week. As you were telling me just earlier, he went from a photo with that fake photo is what it was from Time magazine with that little girl, and he's looking down on her and she's crying. And literally within a matter of days, even hours, he's gone on a really good win streak. Sum up the week for Trump and sum up what it means.
Well, first of all, his travel ban. It's not a Muslim ban. Excuse me, everybody. Venezuela's on the list, too. The travel ban was the Supreme Court agreed with the administration. Of course, I predicted that because if you read the Constitution, it's up to the discretion of the president. It always has been. OK, always. That was a no-brainer. All right. The suit about forcing labor members of labor unions to pay dues was thrown out. Of course, why should you be compelled? I mean, if you want to join an organization, fine. Why do you have to be compelled to pay for it? Okay, so the Democrats lost big league on that one, which of course makes perfect common sense to me. He went back to a resolution to this crisis that was generated over the last few administrations, particularly under Obama, about the border. Nobody wants to be frank. Nobody wants to be honest. So we didn't get any kind of deal. Feckless Republicans. He's showing himself to be a force to be reckoned with, not the Republican Party. It's going to be all about Donald Trump. If you saw his last speech in Fargo, I mean, it was only about Trump because, well, essentially he only talked about himself, okay? Yeah, the crowd liked it. And then, of course, we have the summit coming up with Vladimir Putin, which can cut both ways. We can make a very separate video on that. I have a lot to say on that. And, of course, to top it all off, Justice Kennedy is retiring. If everybody, listen up. If you think it's been rough since the inauguration of Donald Trump with the Antifa crowd, with their PR support called the liberal media, this is going to get uber scary over the next few weeks and months because the Democrats have lost their mind. Trump is renting their brain. Okay, this is going to get really nasty. A whole lot more of harassment is going to be coming out. I mean, if Maxine Waters is going to be the spokesperson of the Democratic Party, well, bring it on, because the Republicans are not going to take it anymore. We all have to worry now. We're in a triggered environment, because by the matrix of Trump's program, he's winning in a big way. Oh, I'm sorry, unemployment is down. Sorry to forget about that one. Okay. In every single minority category, it's down. Okay. Now, does that mean quality jobs and good income jobs are being generated? I don't know. We don't know yet. Okay. How's the tax cut affecting all of this? We don't know. It's still very early. Okay. I tend to think, obviously, it's happening in some ways. What's the gray area? We don't know if these tariffs that Trump's thrown out left and right over Twitter, which I do not think is a good idea personally. We don't know the ricochet effect on that. Okay. I'm not as convinced as the president that the U.S. is going to be walking through the park when it comes to tariff wars. It's pretty nasty stuff. We're still in a gray area there. But overall, if you take that fake news cover of Time magazine to the moment we're speaking right now, it's called change of fortune in a big way. And of course, we have this socialist, a descendant of Bernie, winning a primary race in New York. Good for her. All right, that's fine. Bring it on. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a real conversation. The Democrats you can't talk to. It's like talking to a wall. Okay, this young lady seems to have some ideas. I think she's all very misled. Unfortunately, she was probably university educated, which tells you something. Okay, but she's going to start a conversation about what's good for her district and for the country. And if she wants to be a socialist, she can sit across the table from me, and I'll have a decent conversation. I'll have a civil one with her. I don't have any insults. I'm not going to harass. I'm certainly not going to revert to violence here. But this is showing the crisis of the Democratic Party. No message, They're splintered all over the place, okay? And it shows the Democrats have no idea what is going on in the country. They have learned none of the lessons from 2016. None. Okay, and the most, correct me if I'm wrong, the most popular political figure in the country is still Bernie Sanders. So, the Democrats are all over the place. I guess they'll pull out Stormy Daniels again. That seemed to work for him, huh? Okay, and that creepy porn lawyer. Okay, just keep running that over and over again. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Okay, and Donald Trump's strength, watching him in Fargo, as much as it was about himself, it was about policy. Alex, did you see that? It was a checklist of policy. And he's got some ideas. The Democrats have no ideas, and the mainstream media can't cover it up anymore. You just can't cover it up anymore. They'll get another Robert De Niro, or get Peter Fonda on. Maybe they can have a show together and call it We Insult Average Christian Conservative Americans. I'm sure it'll be a big hit.
So we're calling this Trump the Great Disruptor. And I don't know if he's draining the swamp, but he's definitely disrupting a lot of things. And you listed a bunch of them: tariffs and trade wars. I'm not saying these are good or bad. I'm just saying he's throwing everything on its tail and on its head. You have Iran, you have the Jerusalem embassy, you have a meeting with Putin. Maybe they're going to reset relations with Russia. I don't want to say the word reset. We tried that, but maybe they're going to get it back, to where it was before Obama. You have the Supreme Court justices now that Kennedy's retiring. You have the travel ban. You have North Korea. So he's disrupted a lot of stuff in a little over a year. And you mentioned this young lady who beat Crowley, who beat pretty much the Democrat establishment.
He was supposed to replace Pelosi. Oh my God!
So, given all this change that Trump has brought to the conservative right and to the Republican Party, what do the Democrats need to do? Do you think they should go progressive left, or do you think they're just not oriented correctly in the middle left? Because right now I would say Pelosi's a middle to conservative left. She's definitely not progressive. That's for sure.
For the Democrats, their status quo is untenable, okay? Because they still think that there's a traditional liberal American out there. No, they vote for Trump, or they don't vote at all, okay? Now they because of identity politics, they have their segmentation. What I keep forgetting the term because it's so new to me. They're intersectional people. Is that a disease? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Intersectional. Yes.
I'm getting old. I live abroad. Okay. But their electorate is gone. They've destroyed it. They've just simply destroyed it. And if they want to survive as a party, I think they only have one direction to go to, and that is to be progressive. And Ron Placone, associated with Jimmy Dore, two great progressives. I have a lot of common ground with them. A lot. We can talk about a lot of things. When it comes to some domestic issues and cultural issues, we're going to be far apart. But the Democrats are going to have to move in that direction, and they're going to probably have to accept losing a number of election cycles until they can iron that all out. Because you have to remember, it's not just about ideology. It's about the donors, The people are there. Okay, they got a message. You and I would strongly disagree with it. Fine, that's politics. But the donor class isn't there, okay? And that's why Schumer and Pelosi, they're not proactive because they know, who's looking over their shoulder. It's the donor class. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that are keeping them hostage. So, the Democrats are in a really bad place right now. The best thing they could do is do what the Republicans did after the Romney catastrophe. Okay, they had a postmortem. I mean, it's 2 years out now. They still haven't had a postmortem. I mean, what the Democrats really need to do is Schumer needs to go, Pelosi needs to go. I mean, those are the first two things. Absolutely. Okay, because all Trump has to do is use Schumer and Pelosi for the 2020 and throw in De Niro, a few other ones, and it's done. Okay. I mean, they really need to separate themselves, and they have to show that they have taken on a new lease, because this old lease is just they're prisoners of it. They're prisoners of it, and we have all of this virtue signaling which they cannot escape from, because it is like a dragon eating its own tail. Okay, and the Republicans, it's always very simple: build the wall, keep the economy going, and don't get into stupid wars. It's done. It's done. Okay?
Right.
Really, it is. All right? I mean, I'm very happy that Donald Trump has the opportunity to appoint another Supreme Court justice, because why? You know, people get really angry with me. You know, you want this uber conservative guy in the court? And I said, I want a constitutionalist. I want someone that looks at the original document. I don't want to legislate from the bench. And what happened is if we have, you know, a centrist, really, because of the numbers, it would be a centrist Supreme Court. Now, you have Trump, you know, in whatever direction he's going on one particular day, and then you'll have the Congress. The court is there to keep the balance, And that's why I want to see this happen, because we're going to see other things. But the Democrats are in a bad, hurtful place right now, because they cannot grab the reins of destiny. They can't. They don't see the electorate out there. And Trump is going to continue to disrupt. And again, I really want to make it clear to our viewers, I do not agree with everything that Donald Trump does. There's some things that I'm very, very upset with him about. A lot of it has to do with foreign policy, and I think we should do a separate video on that. But the disruption, the beauty of it, is that it's blowing up the establishment. That's what it's doing on both parties. That's great. That's what he wanted to do. Now, is he draining the swamp? No, that's a difficult question to answer, because in some ways he's creating his own new swamp, which troubles me. I mean, I don't like Pompeo all that much. I certainly don't like Bolton. Always confused. Nikki Haley, of course, I don't like. I mean, I don't like these characters around him. All right, but a sliver of hope is out there. Is that it looks like Trump's told, you know, the Mattis and Pompeo, we're getting out of Syria, okay?
Yeah.
Just do it. Not so much fanfare. We may even hear, because Trump renewed the contract, let's put it that way, with Afghanistan. That deadline's coming up. He's going to say, give me some results. It's possible he'll say, let's come home, all right? Interesting. Yeah. Some of the stuff the Taliban have been saying the same thing. I mean, they run the country. They run Afghanistan. They've created a completely parallel government. All right, and they're open to negotiations. That might be something you might want to grab. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the longest war, most expensive war in American history. I don't think Trump. You know, one of the reasons that makes him a great disruptor is that he's a legacy man. He's a legacy man in real time. Every moment he sees history looking at him. Now, of course, he's got a big ego. Hey, I'd stuff that into the Oval Office, okay? But he's got a big ego. But, you know, that motivates him, and it motivates him to disrupt and to look at things in a very different way. This whole thing on tariffs, I don't know. We'll see, okay? We'll see. But isn't it refreshing? I mean, at least you and I are two rational, calm people. You know, it's kind of nice seeing someone in authority looking at issues in a different way, even if you don't agree. To say that there's a new spin on this, there's a new way of looking at it. It isn't business as usual, and this is what is getting his base wound up. They like it. They like it a lot.
And it's what Sanders had when he had, you know, his ideas. Whether you like them or not, he had his base wound up, and they were coming out in the thousands to hear him speak, unlike Hillary, who was, you know, getting 10, 20 people at her rallies. Sanders was filling up stadiums. And I think you hit the point properly. He was taking positions that his base could rally around. And Trump and Sanders have a lot more in common in that thread than a lot of people, you know, would like to give them credit for. So, I mean, there's no doubt about it that these guys are touching upon a vein in America.
And the problem with the Democrats is that they are more addicted to power than to winning elections. See, this is one of the it's one of the reasons why it all short circuits, because they're so addicted to power. They have the deep state, they have the media, and they just think, all we need to do is, just get on their knees and pray that the Russiagate report will do something. Oh God, it's been 2 years. Where is it? Okay, and you can be like, what's that comedian fool, hoping for a recession?
Bill Maher.
Bill Maher. Okay,
yeah.
I mean that is really pathetic. Okay, but that's something you're not going to you can't plan on. Okay, so they haven't gotten used to it, that they no longer control all the levers. They have still enormous power. And you see it in the media. I mean, how many, former heads of intelligence agencies actually work as commentators on that's weird. I mean, we've never seen anything like that before. And it's
the
really
revolving door in action.
Yeah. And it's quite obvious. And of course, I guess viewers of CNN and MSNBC would notice that, but they don't really have viewers, so nobody knows.
Yeah.
They don't really know because nobody's watching them anymore. Okay, there's no airport near me right now, so I don't see CNN. But the Democrats have their top priority isn't to win, because if it was to win, they would have policies, and what they have fallen back on is identity politics. And identity politics expressed through virtue signaling. That is not how you win elections. Okay? Now, I want to go back something that you said about Bernie Sanders. I think is so important. That young lady, Alexandria, that won in New York.
Yeah.
I think it was 130 to 1 in spending for the two candidates. It shows that if you got a message and you know your electorate, you don't need that money. You don't need the donors, okay? The Democrats and a lot of Republicans have just gotten so damn lazy that they think it's all going to be paid for. That young lady, hats off to her. She understands how politics works. Good for her, okay? Yeah. And I wouldn't, if I was living in New York, I'd love to take her on, okay? As a Republican, I'd like to parlay. It would be very interesting, okay? But see, the establishment gets lazy and complacent, and they think their donor money is going to take care of everything. Well, that's a good swift kick in the ass, and I hope Republicans understand that as well, going into the midterms and going into 2020.
Yeah, I mean, it was a double earthquake for the Democrats yesterday. I mean, you had Crowley losing this Alexandria, I think Ortiz, or I forgot her name. She won. That was just a shock. And then you had the Kennedy retirement. And so, I want to ask you, Peter, is with all the identity politics and all the hysteria, I mean, literally, we're just a day removed from this immigration hysteria and this ripping children from their mothers hysteria that has been playing out for the past week. And now you're moving on to Trump is going to reverse Roe versus Wade. He's going to, change the whole U.S. People are going to be doing home searches. Everyone's going to have a gun. The whole Supreme Court's going to be this far right Gestapo kind of thing. Everyone's presenting this picture. This hysteria do you think this is going to overtake the entire left before the left can reorient itself and come back down to earth and start thinking logically about policy?
I think clearly, absolutely clearly so. As Russiagate fizzles, it's turning into an embarrassment. It really is an embarrassment when you have this cabal at the DOJ and the FBI. Have you noticed they don't cover it much anymore? At least Fox does. The Supreme Court nominee saga is going to tell us everything about the state of American politics on the left, okay? Because it'll be identity politics on steroids, all right? Because that's how they're going to try to obstruct this, because they don't have any other policies. So we're going to see Chuck Schumer, we're going to see Nancy Pelosi, and you know what? Oh, and Auntie Waters in California. It's a lose strategy, folks. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And plus, it's not going to be an uber conservative. I think what Trump's going to probably appoint is someone like Kennedy. Kennedy was for gay marriage. Remember, everybody, he didn't overturn the abortion law. He didn't, okay? Now, as much as you and I wish he would, I think to get someone into the Supreme Court that in the vein of Kennedy, which was clearly a conservative leaning, he wasn't hardcore, and he was thoughtful. I agreed with some of his rulings. I disagreed with others, but he proved himself to be a great master of the law. Okay, so I think that's what we're going to get. Of course, the Democrats are going to portray something completely different. Okay, there's actually, I wish I could. I just got out of the studio. There is a circuit court judge, a woman, a Catholic with 9 children, some of them adopted. You know, she begins with a C. Sorry, but I was looking at her profile real quickly before I did a recording, and I thought, I like her. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Laura Ingraham highlighted her on her
That's
show
right.
last night. Yeah, yeah, definitely. She's. I mean, there's a short list of like 3-4 people, and I think you hit it right on the nose. They're not ultra conservative. This list, from what I understand, they're pretty much centrist to a little leaning right, but they're definitely not hardcore all the way right.
But they're traditionalists. They believe they don't believe in legislating from the bench. Okay,
Right.
And that's the kind of Supreme Court that conservatives like, and I think Donald Trump is going to deliver. But when I heard the news that Kennedy was retiring, for me that was like a neutron bomb that went off. I mean, this is going to really kick up the dust here, because again, the Democrats don't have anything, so they're going to use the virtue signaling and the identity politics to keep their nose above water, because that's where they are right now. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know. As we speak right now, maybe I'll regret saying this, but there's certainly going to be no blue wave. Okay, it's going to get down to the nitty gritty. But if Trump can repeat his last 5 days a few more times before November, I think the Republicans are going to be in a pretty strong position. That's how I see it right now.
Yeah. Now we're going to do another video on this topic, and you touched upon it. And given the fact that we've gone from Russiagate to immigration and migrants and ripping children from their moms to now Justice Kennedy and all these things, the narrative is always changing. But now we're going to be going back to Russia come July 16th with the announcement there's going to be a summit. What do you think? Do you think the liberal left and the media is going to come full circle and hit on the Trump, Putin, Russia collusion thing again, or is it going to be a dud?
They can't walk away from this narrative that they're so vested in over the last 2 years, more than 2 years now. They're going to take a cue from the summit in Singapore, where I have to admit, in Fargo, not many hours ago, Trump put on a sterling performance. I mean, Trump outdid Trump. His interactions with the press in Singapore were not good. I thought it was a poor performance. I think he could have and should have done a lot better. And this is what the media is going to be focused. Donald Trump is not he's not a wonk, okay? He's not a policy wonk. He's got people to do that for him. And it was on display in Singapore. I've already looked at it. I mean, this is how the liberal cable stations are going to. He's not prepared. He'll give away the farm and everything else. As you said on Crosstalk a few days ago, I mean, trying to predict these kind of things are really hard. I mean, you and I kind of think this is a part of our profession, our calling, but this guy is really hard to predict. Trump obviously wants to have better relations with Russia because there's a chill in European-American relations because of trade. And you can see it it's like a hangnail for Trump. NATO doesn't pay its way, and he's sick and tired of it, okay? You've got to pay your way. And, if you don't want to pay your way, then what kind of threat is Russia? Because in his mind, Russia isn't a threat, okay? The people around him think differently. It's very interesting. I usually don't quote Bloomberg because I don't really like them very much. But, they asked Bolton while he was in Moscow, he said, Mr. Bolton, can I ask you about what you wrote about Russia a few months ago before you became national security advisor? And he said, I don't comment on my articles, which, it really shows that's where they're going to go after Trump. OK, even a pat on the back, a strong handshake, all this kind of silly stuff they're going to talk about. What is really important, and I think a lot of viewers don't know it because the mainstream never talks about it. One of the reasons why Trump does really want to talk to Vladimir Putin is that there's some really important arms control agreements that are about to end. And this, and it's not a really sexy topic. It's not like a creepy porn lawyer or something like that. This is about humanity and the security of humanity and some of the great achievements of arms control over the last few decades. And the Russians and the Americans have to renew that effort. Even if it's a steely, hard, cold handshake, this stuff matters, folks. It matters a lot. We don't need an arms race. We don't need smaller weapons, more effective weapons, cheaper weapons. You never want to go nuclear. Never, okay? And some of the stuff that's coming out of the Pentagon makes it a little bit easier, and that's scary. We need these agreements. That's one of the reasons why Trump is going to talk. The dynamic, and I want to do another separate video on this, about what's going on with the European Union, United States, and Russia, because the Eastern Europeans, this is their hold on the Trump administration is Russia, Russia, Russia. Austria, Italy, less and less so Germany. It's kind of dodgy with the French, dodgy with the Spaniards, but it's not a selling issue. And now we're going to see Europe again under enormous stress. And then there's another layer that complicates this, is that American energy companies want Europe. And this is going to be one of the very difficult things that Trump and Putin are going to have to worry about, because they both want a better relationship, but Putin wants access to the European market, and the Europeans want the Russians in the European market, and they don't want to have to buy very expensive liquefied natural gas from the Americans, okay? Right. And, Trump has got to have to, we're on Skype, so he's going to have to shit or get off the pot when it comes to Ukraine, okay? He's going to have to do it one way or another, because Russia's energy policy and Europe's energy policy is predicated on going around Ukraine, because Ukraine is not a reliable energy partner. So this is really complicated, and the Europeans are scared because it's kind of like they're not chaperoned anymore. They're going to be left alone in the parking lot, and daddy's going to go home. They're terrified. This is what you get with this slippery slope moral hazard that the Europeans have been practicing with their own security, their own borders for decades. Grow up, okay? Don't look for Macron as your leader. Don't look at Trudeau. Don't look for Merkel. You need new leadership. You need truly European leadership, and you've got to start talking to each other. The Americans are not going to, the Trumps of this world don't want to pay for it anymore. Why should they take on that security burden? And you see it. Trump is just saying, what does America get out of this? Oh, well, you have a larger population than we do, and collectively a larger GDP, so why don't you take care of your own problems? If the Russians are a problem, go talk to them, okay? Yeah. Make a deal. I mean, this is all common sense. That's how Donald Trump sees it. Of course, the military-industrial complex doesn't want to do that. The energy companies don't want to do that. Wall Street doesn't want to do that. Trump says, why should I do that?
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing
the great disruptor, is just as you said.
The great disruptor. And he's going to be disrupting, I think, a lot of Europe as well. And what you're going to be seeing in a couple of weeks in July is you're going to be seeing two leaders sitting down, negotiating. And I think that's got Europe in a tizzy. I mean, they have no idea what the hell's going on. These guys haven't led in decades.
Yeah. And plus, if you look at through Trump's eyes, he looks, he's met these people, Merkel and May and Macron. Okay. These are political pygmies. I mean, why he didn't want to make a deal with them? You're just technocrats. You don't have a vision. You don't even care about your own country. Okay. See, that's how Trump sees them. It's not malice. It's just that, if I said, why should I sit down at the table with you? What can you offer? You have to talk to everybody else anyway. And he sees Putin as a strong leader, okay? That I think he says if Putin gives his word, he's going to go through with it. And historically, over 18 years, Putin's pretty good in owning up to his own words, okay? So that's how Trump, this is one of the things I've noticed, and people like it, but it's kind of odd. It's just because Europe is postmodern, okay? And they have all these weird identity problems, and Trump's not. He's just a modern guy, and he believes in delineating things, lines, borders. There are two genders, okay? There are two types of humans, and that's how he sees everything. And he sees everything as transactional, okay? And that's why he thinks that he wants to sit down with the Russians and let's transact something. I personally think that Trump thinks Ukraine is a pain in the neck. And he's probably thinking, why the hell are we in Syria? because he knows history well enough. He doesn't want a war to bring him down, okay? Because that's a big, big distraction. Yeah. He doesn't care if there's peace in the Middle East. He wants a wall on the southern border, okay? I mean, this is a truly domestic president. Truly.
And that's his big election promise, so he has to deliver on that.
Well, I think he feels most comfortable with it, okay? I mean, if we make a deal with the South Koreans and the North Koreans, what about the Japanese? And he'll say, well, what the Japanese worry about it are they poor? Are they poor? Huh? No. Oh, the animosity between South Korea and North Korea, well, then sit down and talk about it. That's what I do. That's what I did with the North Korean leader. That's what I'm going to do with the Russian leader. I mean, I'm not saying that it's as simple as that. I'm just saying this is how probably Trump visualizes these things. He thinks things are overcomplicated. All right. And the fact of the matter is that he's also noticed how many people have been visiting Vladimir Putin recently. It's a long line of people. All right. And so, meeting with them is going to be feeding the sharks in the media, but the media are already sharks and they've already chewed up on this. We don't live in the U.S. I tend to think people are it just goes like this, they want to they want to hear about how many jobs are we created, how's the tax cut doing, okay, what's the border status, okay? And they don't get, well, Peter Strzok said 2 years ago to his girlfriend. It's like,
yeah, I totally agree. I think the Russia thing, America doesn't care anymore. And I think they want to see Trump work with Putin and with Xi and all these leaders. I think that's great. They see it as great, but I think you're right. When it comes down to, where the rubber meets the road, it's all about how much money do I have in my pocket? Is my life getting better? And that's how it should be. That's how it should be for a citizen of a country.
What you just said, that's exactly how Donald Trump thinks about himself and the country.
Yeah. And you hit it perfectly, Peter. And as we close this conversation, I think you hit it well, because I think it's the simplicity of Trump that makes him the great disruptor. Everything down to his slogan, MAGA, Make America Great Again. He's the master of simplicity. And I think that makes him a master at disrupting, because there's such a chaotic world that all this chaos and all this bureaucracy and everything they can't take the simplicity of this man.
And this is why I bring up this modernism versus postmodernism, is that the liberals and the progressives, the establishment left, they don't believe in the term of charisma, because charisma is antithetical to modernity. And Trump is a charismatic figure. And this is why they can't understand him, okay? Because it's like, I'll give you a real quick example. It's like a secular person trying to understand a religious person's point of view. It can't do it, okay? It's just so out of sync. And of course, the secular person is going to think, well, the believing person's just a little primitive and dumb, okay? But charisma is real, okay? And it does work. Ronald Reagan was a charismatic figure. I mean, everybody quotes Ronald Reagan, okay? Was he the smartest knife in the drawer? No. Was he particularly religious? No. Was he a hardcore conservative ideologue? No. He was Ronald Reagan. And that's what people say about Donald Trump. He's just Donald Trump.
Yeah. Charisma goes a long way.
It goes a long way.
And
you can't ultimately figure it out. By definition of charisma, it's something that isn't so rational. It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
And it's very powerful.
We're going to be following this story, and I think you're right, Peter. We should do another video on as the summit approaches, and it would be great to hear your analysis as to what you expect with the Trump-Putin meeting, and then to give to debrief everyone after it happens as well. So I think a lot of our viewers are really going to be anxious to hear what you think before the meeting and what you're going to think after the meeting.
Well,
we'll definitely do a video on that.
And because we have the advantage of time zones to our viewers, we're going to do that nanoseconds afterward. You and I are going to have we'll be online. As soon as it's done, we're going to do something 15, 20 minutes after the leaders speak. We'll be out talking to you.
Exactly.
So look forward to that.
Right. We'll break it down. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's Crosstalk. Thank you very much for a fascinating conversation on Trump and everything that's going on in the world right now because of Trump, I guess you could say. So it's a fascinating time.
I just hope he keeps renting their brain, the left. He just lives there. He's just living in there.
I think he's going to.
He has no lease. That's what bothers them.
As long as he has a Twitter account, I don't think they're ever going to get rid of him. That's for sure. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's Crosstalk. Thank you very much for your analysis. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below and click that notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. Guys, go to the Duran shop, buy a shirt, help support the Duran. Until next time, take care.